Welcome to Tell the Damn Story, the show that explores the many ways to navigate the successes and failures that aspiring and struggling writers face to make your journey that much easier.
Hey, everybody. Alex Simmons here. Chris is out there saving the world because what better man to do that than him? Actually, it's the holiday season. Family and stuff like that must take priority. So I had some free time and I thought, while Chris is out there saving the world from turkeys and things like that, I would answer a few more questions that we've received from all kinds of folks, writing questions that might serve you in your creative pursuits. Okay? So this is going to be a short episode of Tell the Damn Story because Chris is not here and it's just not the same without him. But I will do my very best to uphold our edict, which is to share our experiences and our knowledge and our trepidations and all that kind of stuff to help make yours a little bit easier. I'm going to pull up the questions for this particular session. And hopefully you will find some of these questions to be ones you've been wrestling with, and you will find it useful because whether you're an aspiring or emerging writer, we all go through this. We all go through this. Every now and then we run up against a boulder that's just going to take a lot more leverage to get it going, get it up that hill. So here we go. One of the first questions I got here is, how do I turn a vague idea into a full story? Chris and I have talked about this on several episodes, but the reality is, first off, what kind of story are you talking about? Are you talking about a novel, a play, a feature film, or are you talking about a short story? Because those are valid too. As a matter of, especially if you're starting out, if you're still doing your reps as a writer, a short story is quite valid. It's even better. The more short stories you write, you have your beginning, middle, and end, the more practice you have gaining better control and more fluidity with words and plot ideas and characterizations and all those things. First thing, map it out, right? Okay, you have an idea, you have a plot, you have a concept, map it out. I know some people want to just hit the keyboards and start writing. Oh, I got this great idea, I'm going to go for it. That's writing by the seat of your pants. That works for a small percentage of writers. The majority of us need some sort of guidepost. So map it out. It can be bullet points, it can be scrawls and quick sentences and references here, but map it out. Try and see in roughest form the beginning, the middle, and the end of your story. If you can see the ending, well, okay, here's where you want to get to. How do we start? What happens in the middle that gets you to the end? If you're going to map it out and it's a short story, you can do it. What moments happen in what sequence? So if it starts here, what happens next? What happens next? What happens next until you get to the end? Now, I said moments rather than scenes because maybe it all takes place in one location in one time period. Maybe it's one scene. Okay, one scene, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, one scene. But what happens from the beginning to the end of that long scene? What moments have to happen one after the other to build your story to the climax, to the resolution, to the conclusion? Just map it out. Quick sentences, quick little ideas. You're not saying it's rock solid, going to be this, that, and the other. You're saying, this is what I think it's going to be. And then you ask yourself, what is my character's goals? Or what is their goal? It's a singular one or multiple. What's the goal? What do they have, want to have, striving for? What's the conflict? It's really about a moment in a person's life or a moment in two characters' life where they share this thought or they have this conversation. And it doesn't have a high or a low, it just goes from here to there. What you have to ask yourself when you're doing that is, why would people want to watch this or read this? What are they going to get out of it? If it's just an esoteric enjoyment of you hearing your own voice, you writing words that you enjoy reading, well, it's a great moment for you. But if you're writing for the masses, you're writing for an audience, what are they going to get out of it? What are you trying to share with us? What are you trying to teach us? What is the conflict? What is the goal of the character? What are they willing to do, or what do they have to do to achieve that goal? If there's a conflict, even if it's, do I stay here and take care of my ailing parents, or do I take this opportunity to go off to college and maybe improve my life so I'll be in a better position to help them? It doesn't have to be shoot 'em up, bang, bang. We all have these moments, these sort of turning points in our lives. Do I go this way or do I go this way? That's a conflict. Which way do I go? How do I choose? Whose advice can I take? And the more we watch characters deal with these challenges, whether they succeed or not, the more intriguing, compelling, identifiable is the story. So, how do you turn a vague idea into a full story? Map it out, right? Look for what moments happen in sequence. What's the goal of your character? What's the conflict they're up against? And last but not least, in order to know their goal and their conflict, what's your character like? The more you know your character, the more you understand what they are willing to do or cannot accomplish and cannot do within this story, and that they'll need help or not. Okay? So that's how you turn a vague idea into a full story. What was the second question? What makes a good story hook? A hook for a story, meaning what's going to make the audience want to keep going and feel like totally engaged and compelled to see the end of it? Or do you mean what's a good log line? In other words, that one sentence that you can say to a potential publisher or potential editor or potential producer or potential actor that you want, that's going to get them so intrigued that they want to know more. So let's take it. A log line. Here's one that I've used many times in my classes. A high-priced surgeon falsely accused of his wife's murder must go on the run to find the real killer, the one-armed man. That's from the movie The Fugitive. So we got a lot of information in that. We're intrigued. We know that somebody who was successful at a job that has nothing to do with police work, detective work, or anything like that. So he's got some money. He was married. His wife is murdered. Traumatic. Okay. He's accused of her murder. But we already know he didn't do it because it says falsely accused. All right, so now he's in trouble. He's innocent and he's in trouble, must go on the run. So he's going to be chased and pursued to find the real killer. That's dangerous. A one-armed man. Whoa, how does that fit in? And how's that going to end? So that's a hook. That's a really great hook. You've got your hero figure who's a victim, who's not prepared to deal with the challenge and the conflict he has to deal with, or else his life is over. In the story, we want to have certain feelings about this character, it's Dr. Richard Kimball. We have to feel something about him. If we're not wealthy and we're not surgeons, and we may not identify with that, but we know what it's like to be falsely accused of something. Maybe as a kid we were falsely accused of something. Maybe as an adult, our bosses thought we did X and we didn't. It was somebody else. We can identify with that. We can identify with someone we care about being hurt or injured, right? We can identify with people being on our backs and coming after us for this or that. Universal emotional moments that we can tie into. We can root for the underdog. This man falsely accused of a heinous crime that he didn't do, who's now got to find the person who really did it. I hope he makes it. I hope he wins. I hope he finds the son of a gun that did this thing and he clears his name because I'll feel better. Because sometimes I feel like I'm up against the monster and I don't know if I'm going to win out. So that's how you can set up a hook. You want to identify your lead character in such a way that your audience pulls for that character, wants to see that character win, or in case of maybe Star Wars, Darth Vader, you want to create such a villain that we can't wait to see this son of a gun get his come up. We want to watch this sucker get nailed for this. You've done so many terrible things. I want to actually have popcorn when they are tearing you apart. Settings are cool, information is cool, backgrounds are cool, all that. Special effects are cool, fight scenes are cool, depending on what you want. But it's really the characters that we become connected to. We want to watch them win or lose. So that's a strong hook right there. Good idea, good characters, compelling situation, Get us to care about them, and then you can go forward from there. Okay, third question. How do I write scenes that feel cinematic? Well, okay, I'm going to start with what's the story about? If it's a story that takes place in a rundown hotel room with peeling plaster and dirt and dinginess and everything like that, okay, that's where it takes place. If it takes place on the high seas or in a palatial home or Victorian castle or in a rundown neighborhood or on the beach somewhere, what's the location and what's the story about? What's the genre, right? How do you want us to feel when we see this space? If it's a broad, wide open space, okay, the cinematic aspects of it can be the location in and of itself. The open sea, another location that's very wide and broad, a lot of visuals to work with. Urban cities, major city like New York or San Francisco or St. Louis, right? Where you've got building structures and architecture is fascinating to the eye, okay? You can use a location to help make your film feel cinematic, to help make your story feel like it's in a very cinematic environment. If you're writing a book or a short story and you want that cinematic feel, spend a certain amount of time establishing the location or particular aspects of the location, how the sun glints off of the glass and chromes of the executive buildings in the downtown area. Help paint a picture in our minds of where we are and what we see, because that's our setting, that's our backdrop, and we feel like we're there, all right? Then what's the mood of your story? The Gothic castle on the hill, the lightning bolts and the moon and all those things, those are very atmospheric for a horror film, right? The open field with the lush grass, tall grass, and the trees and the sun shining, that's got a completely different feel to it, right? Maybe that's a romance film or something about freedom, that sort of thing. Then what's your style? As a writer, are you poetic? Are you more gritty? Are you more detail oriented? What's the style of writing? How are you going to put me in that place with those particular characters moving through that world? Is it going to be short, quick clips? Is the characters going to be speaking in very, are they going to have particular accents or are they going to have a particular way of talking that helps me really feel like, oh yeah, I know they're from the South and I can feel, I can almost sip the mint, right? What are you going to do to set up the location, the mood, and the style of your story? How are you going to tell that story? If you want it to be cinematic, you want me to feel like I'm in that place, whether it's a film or a book, you want me to feel like I'm in that place. You want to give me things that I can picture in my mind or I see on the screen and I'm moved by that. And then the mood of the story, the atmosphere of the story is going to be that second layer. And then your style, how you set things up visually, if it's a film, or how you utilize your words and your characters speaking to create that, again, that full immersion into that world. So that's how I approach trying to create a cinematic feel. Establish the space, establish the mood, establish a particular style, and then use that to help my audience move through that world with very strong imagery and a very strong sense of being with these people. Let's move on to question number 4. How can I improve pacing in my writing? Well, tell the story to yourself first. You want to get a sense of how it feels, how it moves. What is the rhythm? What is the pace of this story? Is it laid back or very energetic and high powered? So tell it to yourself. What's this story about? How does it begin? How does it move? How does it end? What's the feel? Also, the genre and the mood and the tone of your story affects the pacing. A romantic tale, soft and gentle, is going to have one type of energy that will affect the pacing of your story. Something that's a spy thriller is going to have a different energy, right? A horror film is going to have another type of energy. So you want to understand what's the genre I'm writing in, what's the mood that I'm trying to establish for my story, what's the tone, the feel of the story. That's going to affect your pacing. Let's say you've written a genre piece, you've done two, maybe three drafts of it, so you've checked for the structure of the story that seems to hold up. Yeah, it works pretty well. The character's fairly consistent throughout. Yep. The dialogue seems to be working rather well. Okay, so I've done two, three, four drafts of it. I'm feeling pretty good. Let me read it to myself, but out loud. Out loud, so you can hear it at the same time that you are looking at it. Because again, if you hit a spot where the dialogue seems to be dragging on, you're going to know it. You're going to go, I got to cut this down. He's taking too long to say this. She's taking too long to say that. This is not as clear as it should be. This should have more urgency to it. By reading it out loud, as Chris likes to say, as if you're getting paid $10,000 to do it. Not like, okay, so the man entered the room. No. So the man entered the room, checked around, always certain that, or almost certain that, or uncertain about such and such, with energy, right? So you can get that feel, and that'll give you a sense of the pacing. Next, or last, for this particular set of answers, is have a reading of your piece. Again, whether it's a screenplay, stage play, or a short story or a novel, have some people read it. Have it read it as beta readers, pass the script on to several people. If it's a screenplay or a stage play, get together a group of people and assign them different parts and have them do a reading of it and sit back and listen. Don't participate in the reading. Don't you play one of the characters. You want to sit back and hear it with the voices of other people other than the voices in your head. And that will give you a sense of the pacing. What's too fast, what's too slow, what's not hitting the way it should. Okay. Next question, number 5. How do I know when my story is ready to share? There are probably 4 categories to this as well. One of them would be, what are you sharing it for? In other words, are you sharing it for feedback, a critique? You want a couple of other writers or an editor, other writers to read it, other people whose word you trust to read it and give you some sort of reaction, right? Is that what we're talking about? Have you done 2, 3, 4 drafts of this so that you feel like, okay, now I can pass it on to somebody and get some honest feedback? 3 to 4 drafts minimum. And again, here's why. The first draft is you telling the story to yourself, right? You're getting it out of your head and onto a surface. Second draft is you've gone through the story to make sure that the story structure holds up, that it makes sense from beginning to end. Your third draft might be that you've checked your characters. Are my characters consistent? Are they doing what I feel they need to be doing in order to be believable or authentic within this story? Now, if you're going to go for a fourth draft, you're going back for the dialogue. Are my characters speaking in character as opposed to speaking as if I'm saying everything, no matter which character you're reading, right? So those are 4 good drafts right there. Each one allows you to go through your script for one specific reason only: to tell the story to yourself, to make sure the story structure works, to make sure the characters are consistent, to make sure the dialogue is authentic. Now you can pass it on to other people because they're going to be able to react to a good draft of your script, of your story, right? And they can give you some feedback. Hopefully, at that point, if you want people to read it, you want to share the story just to see how the layperson, an audience would react, you can do that. Again, you pick beta readers, you pick people who are honest with you and let them read it and come back to you with it. Just be prepared. Why are you asking for the feedback? Why do you want to share your story? If you want to share it so that everybody tells you how wonderful it is, okay, you're leaving yourself open for a kick in the tummy. Because if it needs work, or if it's not quite clicking, or some of the things you thought worked beautifully don't, and you're thinking everybody's going to tell me how wonderful it is, that's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. It's going to hurt more so than if you Put it out there and you go, oh boy, I hope this works. I hope people like it. I hope it's really good. I tried. Right? Because then you're making room for the fact it may need some additional work. But if you think it's the best thing since sliced bread, and folks go, nah, I think it's moldy, that's going to kick hard. And you're going to feel defiant or irritated, or worse, you're going to feel like, okay, obviously I can't write. And you're going to toss that aside, your dreams of writing aside, and go off to do something like, I don't know, pruning hedges, which is nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. But if you want to be a writer, then get ready. Critiquing is a part of it. So ask yourself, why do I want to share the story? What do I want to get out of it? And then go from there. Okay, let's move on to question number 6. How do I write from a point of view I don't personally share? Oh boy, Chris and I have talked about this on numerous occasions. I'm going to give this to you in 3. 1, why do you want to do that? Really? No, why? Why do you want to write about something that you've never done, you have no experience, no knowledge of? Why do you want to do that? Ask yourself that. Really ask yourself that. Ask yourself that question 5 levels deep. You're going to ask yourself, why do I want to do this? Oh, because I think it would be cool. Why do you think it's cool? Because that's a really interesting lifestyle, or that would be fun doing a crime novel. Why do you think it would be fun doing a crime novel? Why do you think that would be an interesting lifestyle? Right? Why do you do that? Get down to the why. Because if it's really important to you to do this story, then the next thing you want to do is do your homework. Now, if you're writing a crime story, I don't mean go out and create a crime or commit a crime. I don't mean that at all, ever. But you can watch documentaries on it. You can read police reports and books about people who did commit such and such a crime. You do not have to do it yourself, but you need to do some research. Once you've gotten enough background material to help you be more familiar with this you're going to write about, you have to get into the head of the characters. I often talk about this man. I'm not like a fanboy running around trying to get his autograph. I just respect his work tremendously. Aaron Sorkin. He wrote West Wing. He's done a number of things, but West Wing is just really a great example of this. He created the series and he's writing the series. I think he wrote the first 2 seasons of this series. So he's talking somewhere around 20 some odd episodes, right? You got Republicans and Democrats. You got liberals and conservatives. You got people on opposite sides of the political and social strata, right? And he has to write a character who believes X and another character who believes Y, and they have to be able to have dialogues and arguments and things about their beliefs and their process for doing something and what they will or wouldn't do and such and such and such. And both these characters have to be authentic, have to be believable, have to speak the words with conviction. And in order for them to do that, the writer has to get into their heads. Do your homework. Get into your character's head so they are speaking their truth. That will help make them more authentic. Remember, every villain is a hero in his own mind. Right? So understand that. Thanos believed, in the movies in particular, that to wipe out half of the universe is a good thing because the resources aren't there for everybody. So if I wipe out half of people, the rest will be good. That's a good thing. I'm going to go do it. It's a horrible thing. He wasn't wrong. Resources are strained to the level that we need, but his methodologies are objectionable. But he didn't see it that way. He was doing a good thing. And once he did his good thing, he could live in peace now. No guilty conscience. I did the right thing. It was logical. I fulfilled it. And what I had to do in order to do that, I'm good with that too. I'm a hero in my own mind. Right? So you've got to understand your characters. You've got to do your homework. And then you write to the best of your ability and then go through the process of rewrites and getting critiques and feedback and see where it goes. We got maybe 4 more of these. How do I turn personal experiences into powerful stories? What do you mean by powerful? What do you mean by that? Are you thinking blockbuster kind of powerful? Or do you simply mean so that it touches somebody, it reaches somebody, that people get it. On whatever level that is, they get it, okay? Because I think it's important that you understand what you mean when you say powerful, what you're going for, what's your goal. There's a short story that I referenced with my class just a few days ago. And I'm not going to tell it the whole story. I'll just give you basic reference. So a young man gets off a train in a small town, it's his hometown, and it's nighttime, and he hails a cab, and he gives the cab driver the address of the house where he grew up. He's returning after being away for over a year or so. And he gets to talking to the cab driver on the drive, and he basically tells the cab driver that my father and I had some harsh words. I was very rebellious. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. We had these harsh words, and I took off a year or so ago, and it was ugly, right? I've been gone all that time, and I really hurt him. I said some terrible things. And so I wrote him a letter, and I basically said, look, I want to come home. I want to be able to talk to you. I want to see you. But I understand if you don't want to see me, fine. If you do want to see me, put a light in the window, put a lamp on in the window. And if I see that lamp and it's turned on, I'll know that I can come into the house. If not, then I'll know what your answer is and I'll just keep on going. And so it takes a little bit of time for him to tell this story, but by the time they reach the house and he looks out the window of the cab, not only is there a lamp in a window, there's a light on in every window of the house. Plus, there are lamps on the porch and onto the lawn in front with extension cords and everything. He has lit up the whole front of the house and the lawn in front of the house, which says what his answer is. And the young boy looks at that, and there's this big smile as he gets out of the cab. End of story. Now, is that powerful? Yeah, if it touches you, if it means something to you, if you know what it's like to have harsh words or an argument with someone who you loved or cared about and damage that relationship, and you're hoping or wishing that you could renew it. Maybe you haven't had that experience, but you can imagine what it would be like if you couldn't talk to that person that you care about immensely. If suddenly, for some reason, there was this rift between you, you were afraid it could never be mended. Absolutely. Is that a big story? Is that a blockbuster film? Is that a novel? Is it a Pulitzer Prize winner? No, it's none of those things. But it is a powerful story. Ernest Hemingway wrote a story in 6 words: For sale, baby shoes, never worn. What comes to your mind when I say that? A number of people, when I've said that to them, had a particular image in their head almost instantly, and it touched them. It moved them, it made them feel a certain way. I mean, they weren't tearful, everything, but it created an image in their heads. They went, oh. So what do you mean when you say a powerful story? Tell your story, something in your life that was had meaning and you want to share that with others. Tell your story to the best of your ability. Understand why you're telling it, what you want us to get from it. Do your best after that. And it will stand or fall on the merits of your efforts. Okay? And everything else I said about rewrites and stuff like that, that all applies. Make your point, serve your audience. Okay, you got 3 more. How do I make a setting come alive on the page? Okay, that varies. That really does vary. It depends on a number of factors. It depends on your writing skill, right? It depends on how much attention you pay to detail. It depends on how much detail is necessary. Let's work with short stories or novels or things like that and forget films, because film is, you're going to have a picture and that's going to do its own thing. But in writing a short story or a novel, visualization, how do you visualize the scene in your head as the writer? What do you see? Okay, visualize that setting. See as much of it as you possibly can. See it as clearly as you possibly can. Build it in front of your eyes. And when you can see it, whatever that location is, you've got the big picture Now go for the little things. Look for the little details. Are there cracks in the wall? Are some of the tree branches broken? Is it dusk or dawn? Is it night? Are there stars? If there's a children's room, are the toys scattered all over the place? Or are they neatly positioned in their proper places? If they're scattered all over the place, or if they're neatly positioned, are they old toys? Do they look worn and used? Or do they look loved, cuddled, and embraced and held? Can you envision them? Is one of them the most lovable, the most worn, the most used in the crib? An empty crib. What's the color of the crib? What do you see? So you visualize the spot and then you go for the details. You could describe a baby's room at a particular time of the day and focus on the crib and focus on the condition of the crib and what's in the crib. And are there blankets and are they pink or blue or what? These are the things that you can do. You want us to be able to visualize the important moments, the important elements of that story so that we can see it. And that's what works for you the most. Oh, here's one other thing. Aside from what we see, which is sight, there's also sound and smell. There's sight, but then there's also sound and there's smell, right? So sometimes you can describe a sound that'll help place that in our minds and help us visualize and really become immersed in that setting. Or we can talk about a certain scent that the character is picking up on as he or she or they enter this particular area or as they remember such and such. Whether it's flowers or food or the gym after, a heavy game of basketball and what do the players smell like. And these are things that you can use to help pull us almost immediately into that environment and try and use scents or sounds that have a universal appeal. If you say something smells foul or something smells sharp or something smells sweet, those are universal phrases as opposed to, I love the smell baked yams at Thanksgiving time. Some of us will know what that smell is and others will not. And so you have to decide what can you add to that that would help us at least come close to that, have some sort of way of identifying that experience. And a setting comes alive through the little details that you can add to the description or that the character can respond to that helps us go, oh, yeah, I see that. Or I feel that. Or, oh my God, you should get out of there. That's not good. Right? You want to play with us. You want us to respond in a way as if we're almost in that situation, good or bad. Okay, last two questions. What are the most common beginner mistakes in fiction writing? I'm just thinking about some of the ones I made. This ties into one of the ones that we mentioned earlier, writing about things you know nothing about and then not doing your homework. That's a big mistake. A lot of people do that. They want to do a story about doing a robbery, or they want to do a story about homelessness, or they want to do a story about traveling across a great expanse of territory, and they've never done any of those things. And so they write what they've seen in other movies or read in someone else's story, and they write that as if that's their experience, or they use that as the meter for their particular story. And always, almost always, you can feel the emptiness in that because you haven't done your homework. You're making a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. That's really what you're doing. What you need to do is, if you want to do a story about something that you've never done before, do your homework, read about it. You want to do a story about, homelessness. I don't want you to go and start interviewing 200 homeless people, because that may or may not be a safe thing to do, right? But what you can do is watch documentaries on it, read articles, read interviews with people who have gone through that, are going through that, and pull from that the authentic aspects that would help you write your story. This is, again, if you feel compelled to write about something you've never done. Sometimes an easier direction to start out is to write about things you have done or things that you at least have access to. Start there. But again, if you're going to do something else, do your homework. Another mistake, trying to be clever but not clear. You want to make it sound like you got a college education. You want to make it sound like you're a great writer of great mysteries or great romance novels, or great historical fiction, and you're using all these right words to sound clever, to sound smart, to sound experienced, but your story's not clear. Your intention's not clear. The conflict is not clear. The characters are not clear or authentic. Don't be clever, be clear. And after you're clear, after you're sure your story works and your characters are authentic and all of that makes sense, then you can go back in and play with some of the phrasings and the words. Clarity first, because you lose us if we can't figure out what's going on. We don't buy it. We're not going to make it through the first two chapters. And then all your work is for nothing. Okay. Another one, trying to write like a writer they admire rather than the writer that they are, right? I admired Ray Bradbury. When I read Something Wicked This Way Comes, I wanted to be able to write like that. I didn't want to write as if I was Ray Bradbury. I wanted to be able to use words the way he did. I wanted to know what it was like to be able to build up those kind of images and those kind of characters. That's what he inspired me to do. That's what other people, Walter Mosley, inspired me to do. That's what Agatha Christie inspired me to do. You want to be able to write your best work, but it needs to be you, not them. They're already them. They already have their following. This is about you. So don't try and write like those people. Be inspired by the quality of work that they did. I think one other thing I would add to that is not believing in the benefits of rewrites. The first thing you put down on paper or you put down via the keyboards on the screen is not your best effort. It's your first effort. That's exactly what it is, your first effort. Your best effort is after you've put in a lot more work. It's after you've gone through it. Like I said before, you can do it at least 3, 4 times. Does the story make sense? Do the characters remain consistent throughout? Do they grow and do what they're supposed to do? But yeah, those are those characters, right? Does the dialogue make sense? Does it sound authentic? And then you could have people read it, and are they confused by certain things you need to work through? That's at least 4 times right there. Rewrites are your friends, man. Rewrites are a superpower. Rewrites are beneficial. Rewrites are where the real work begins. Okay, last question. How do I get feedback that is actually useful? Okay. Pick people who are honest and supportive, and in that order. You don't want people who are going to tell you it's wonderful if it's not. You don't want people to tell you, oh, you don't need to do anything else. This is the best story possible. Now, if they believe that, if they truly feel that, if they're not lying to you, and yet you know it needs a bit more work, well, you can say thank you and wait for some additional feedback that's going to help you fix whatever it is you're already aware could be better. But you don't want yes people. You want people who are going to be honest, and you want people who are going to be supportive. You do not want people who are going to tell you, well, I would write this way. I'm not asking you how you should write this. I'm asking you, what do you feel needs work so that I can work on it? If you want to suggest how I might work on it, you might say something along the lines of, well, I was very confused by the scene where Karen and Felicia were talking. I couldn't quite tell what Felicia was trying to get Karen to understand. Okay, fine. Now, I, the writer, can go back and look at that scene and see maybe where it is confusing, maybe where clarity fell on its face. And in fact, and say, thank you for that. Now I can go back in and tweak that. Where exactly were you confused within that conversation? Oh, when she was talking about, I said, okay, let me look at that. All right, that's fine. That's being honest and supportive. Someone says to you, maybe you should be doing something else. Writing is a difficult thing. You're really much better at basketball. You're really much better at cooking. You're really much better at math. Okay, thank you for your time and your opinion. Because you didn't ask them to tell you what career path you should go on. You asked them what they thought of the work. And if they could say to you, I really didn't like it, I really didn't get it, you can go, oh, okay, I'm sorry to hear that, but thank you. But if they're going to now tell you, give it up and go become a marine fisherman or something like that, marine biologist, they're going to tell you, no, go become a marine biologist. Well, thank you for that. But I really wanted some feedback on the writing. Right? So you want people who are going to be supportive and honest with you. Listen to the criticism with an open mind to distinguish between constructive suggestions and ego bashing. Okay? That's it. That's really all I can say about that. Depending on the people that you spend your time with, depending on the writing groups that you might find or the other writers that you might encounter along the way, you're going to get different reactions. You're going to encounter different personalities, and that's going to affect you in one way or the other. You can't control other people. You can work on controlling your reaction to other people. And so once again, try and be around people who are supportive, who are honest, who maybe do what you do. They also write, and subsequently they have some idea of what you're dealing with, what the challenges are. And that might be some of the support that you need to help you get better at what you do. Okay, that was it for Tell the Damn Story, this particular episode. Chris, miss you. We will do this again. He will be back before the next holiday. And if you have any other questions, yeah, because this was from a batch of questions that we had. Chris and I answered some about a week or so ago, and I jumped on these today, but keep those questions coming because we're more than happy to share them. And we also do interviews with other writers, and I would love to have maybe 2 or 3 other writers on here sometime to answer some of your questions, and we can get a different perspective. So, like I said, drop them in the comments, email them to us, any of that good stuff. And I'll see you next time on Tell the Damn Story.